Hey, what's up, guys? So it's Thursday, April 2nd, and today we're going to go through the um, air test review, section 2, whatever. Going to talk about special triangles. So I figured just get right into it today, make the video as short and sweet as possible. We've talked about these a bunch, and honestly, those of you that have done really well in the class, part of the reason is because you're really able to associate the 45, 45, 90 triangles, 30, 60, 90 triangles, and you're starting to develop these like quick ways to solve problems, or recognize that most of the math problems have these like little nuances like this, where if you can recognize them, it goes a lot faster for you. So let's take a look. 45, 45, 90 triangles. For part one, it says a 45, 45, 90 triangle is a triangle that has two congruent angles with a measure of 45 degrees. Makes sense, right? Two of them are the same. Okay, it is always a right triangle when we're talking about this. The 90 degrees makes it so. And in a 45, 45, 90 triangle, both the legs are congruent, right? Okay, so in a 45, 45, 90, try to make one as best as possible. You have your 90 degrees, and then these angles are congruent to each other. They're always the same, which also makes this side length equal to that one, right? These side lengths are always equal. These angles are congruent, and these side lengths are congruent, all right? So in a 45, 45, 90 triangle, what that means is that when we're trying to determine like what's the side length of those triangles, we know that the length of the hypotenuse is the length of the leg times radical 2, okay? So again, the length of the legs, so this is a leg, this is a leg, and then this is across from the 90 degrees, so again, that's the hypotenuse. And notice the difference, you have x, and then x times radical 2. All right, so if you know the length of the legs, all you have to do to get the hypotenuse is multiply it by radical 2. In the same way, if you know the hypotenuse to be, for instance, like 2 radical 2, then you can just get rid of that radical 2, and that tells you the legs are the size of 2. All right, so let's look at some examples. First example, we have the fact that this is a 45 degree. This is 90, so that makes this 45, because you can only have 180 degrees total, right, in a triangle. So since this is a leg of 7, it has to be congruent to this one, so y is also 7. And since this is the hypotenuse, right, it's across from the 90 degrees, so then we have that is equal to 7 times radical 2. Don't have to really do a whole lot of work there, right? Cool. Number 2. So number 2, it says that this is 90 degrees. This is 45 degrees. I know it's kind of tough to see, which makes this 45 degrees. So if this side length is 3, again, hypotenuse over here, okay? So if a leg is radical 3, then the other leg is radical 3, all right? And then the hypotenuse is radical 3 times radical 2, which we would simplify to radical 6, okay? So hopefully that was easy enough for you. Those are some examples right there. Okay, so that's a 45, 45, 90. It's probably the easier of the two. Both the legs are the same. So that means it's pretty simple to solve. And then you just multiply the hypotenuse by radical 2. Moving on, 30, 60, 90. As you recall, 30, 60, 90 in the right triangle, one angle is 30 degrees. The other one must be 60. 30 plus 60 plus 90 equals 180 degrees. So in the shortest leg, or in a 30, 60, 90, the shortest leg is opposite, keyword opposite, the 30 degrees. So if I draw a 30, 60, or as best as I can, if this is the 30 degrees, okay, then this is the shortest side. It's opposite. Okay, it's opposite. If this is the 60 degrees, then opposite of that is the medium side. And if this is the 90 degrees, then opposite it is the hypotenuse, or the longest side, right? It's all about opposites. Okay. The long leg. So let me go back and edit this. This should be leg, and this is the long leg, right? Okay, and that's opposite the 60 degrees. All right, so in a 30, 60, 90 triangle theorem, if it is a 30, 60, 90, the length of the short leg is x. The length of the long leg is x times radical 3. Okay, and the length of the hypotenuse is 2x. Okay, actually I'm going to make that in red. So, for example, let's take a look. This is 90, 60, that makes this 30, makes this the shortest leg, okay, the shortest leg. So if this is opposite of the 60, that means that this is the medium leg, and remember the long leg, and the long leg is x radical 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to solve for that. So 15 equals x radical 3, right? So we want to divide by radical 3. Okay, that cancels out on the right-hand side. So now I have 15 divided by radical 3 equals x. The problem with that is, of course, you're not allowed to have a radical in the bottom, so we have to rationalize it just like we did the other day. So you're going to multiply both of them by radical 3. 2 radical 3's on the bottom. When you multiply them across, right, gives you just 1 3. And radical 3 times 15 is 15 radical 3. Nothing really you can do about that, okay? However, 15 and 3 both have a 3 in common. So this simplifies. 15 divided by 3 is 5, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. So this simplifies to 5 radical 3. Is what x is. Okay? So x is 5 radical 3, which means that y is double that. Remember the hypotenuse? So the hypotenuse coming across from the 90-degree angle is always 2 times x. Well, if this is x, 2 times 5 radical 3, again, this is kind of going back to Mondays, is just 10 radical 3. Done. So there's your 3 sides. You got 10 radical 3, 5 radical 3, and we already had that length. Okay. Number 2. Number 2, we have this leg. Here's another leg. And then this is the hypotenuse, right? Or if you're doing Pythagorean theorem, this would be C. Well, if this is the 30-degree angle, then that means that's the shortest side. Perfect. That makes the hypotenuse very easy, right? Hypotenuse is always double the shortest side. So the hypotenuse is 28. And then the longest leg, if we go back up, the longest leg is always, where did I put it? Right there. Right? Long leg is x radical 3. So if my shortest side is 14, and this is x radical 3, I'm sorry, my x was 14, so this would be 14 radical 3. Done. So there's your 2 answers for that one. Okay, so I told you I'd keep it short and sweet, and that's exactly what it was. Okay, your exit ticket is below. You got 2 examples of each. We just want you to work on a 30, 60, 90 practice, and then 45, 45, 90 practice, 45, 45, 90 triangle. Practice that, turn it in, make sure you get the right answers, and Zoom conference me if you have any questions. All right, I'll see you guys soon.